How do you actually get to the UFC anyways? That is a really difficult question. There's just no clear pathway. You see some people, they get in one way, you see other people, they get in another way. There are some trends that we can look at, but this is a really difficult problem to solve because there is zero blueprint and things keep changing all the time. Wait till the end of the video because I've got a super secret hack that will get you to the UFC faster, get you treated better than all the other athletes, and you'll make more money. Now, first thing you gotta do is you gotta get training. You gotta get your grind on. And I don't mean like that, no Diddy on this, all right? I know I make a lot of Diddy jokes, but he's hot in the streets. So yeah, we gotta grind. We gotta get into the meat and potatoes of the game and start learning technique, be at a good gym, train under good people, surround yourself with people that are either already there or on their way to getting there. Ideally, find a coach that knows what it's like being there. That maybe that's not even they fought there personally, but they've achieved a decent level in fighting and they have produced people that have gone there or coached people that have fought there. They have that experience on how to solve the problems that you're going to encounter. After you have a gym, you have to get really good. Now, if you're at the right gym, you can probably get good enough to get into the UFC in about 6 years, 7 years. It may take longer, depends on your level of coordination and how things play out in your career. Once you're good enough to fight, you gotta fight. You gotta start fighting, but don't go pro right away. It's much better to start as an amateur and learn some of the many lessons that there are to learn in the act of fighting, right? In actual MMA fighting. You're gonna be sparring in the gym. That's one thing, but it's completely different when you go and fight. Well, it's not completely different, but it is very different. You'll see a lot of people who are very good in the gym, and then you get them in the cage and they're not the same person, and you see that in reverse as well. Some people suck in the gym. Anderson Silva lost a lot in the gym. GSP, by far, does not win all of his rounds in the gym, but then you put him in a fight and he never loses. You put Anderson Silva in a fight and he's like superstar, right? Some people are like that. Depends on who you are, but it's gonna take a lot of practice. So you need to get amateur fights. Now, I believe to test my amateurs. I don't wanna put them in with a bunch of fights that are trying to pad their record because nobody cares about your amateur record. It disappears as soon as you go pro, and it's like not even an afterthought. No UFC matchmaker is gonna look at what you did in your amateur career. Once you're pro, everything matters, but amateur, it doesn't really, right? So try to get in some hard fights as an amateur and learn some lessons. You don't want all your hard fights as an amateur right away. I think that it's good to build people up a little bit before we knock them down. At least this is most people. So I will put my amateurs in fights that I believe they have a good chance of winning if I'm able to. And for the first like 2-3 fights, get them used to killing. Get them used to being that top dog, that alpha. And then I'm chucking them to the wolves. Then they're gonna fight really tough people and we're gonna see how they can hold up and what lessons we need to learn from the fire. Once they've been burned, we'll fix those holes. And then once the holes are fixed, we test them out a couple more in the amateurs. And these will be fights that aren't quite as hard. They're winnable fights, but they're still tough. And then after that, they seem like they've learned their lessons, it's time to go pro. So ideally, 5-6 amateur fights, and then we're going into professional. As soon as we're pro, everything matters. Every single fight that you lose is gonna be on your record for the rest of your life, and every loss matters. If you're looking to go into the UFC, you really don't want a large amount of losses. Ideally, you wanna get to like 8-0, 9-1, 12-2, something like that. And the people at the top are gonna be looking at you like, okay, this guy, we can sell this guy. Because they gotta make you appealing to the public. They wanna make the public believe that you're one of the best fighters in the world, which is just an easier sell if you can say, oh, this guy's undefeated and he's knocked out 10 people. Everybody's like, whoa. That's not easy to do. He must be fantastic. Maybe all the guys he fought sucked. That doesn't matter, as long as they can sell it. So all that to say, when you're pro, it doesn't matter as much who you're beating, I don't think. Unfortunately, we don't have all of this information. It's not like you can just go to a matchmaker and ask him, oh, hey, Mitch Mayberger, does it matter to you more if the person knocks out some can in 30 seconds or if they get a decision against a really hard dude that's a former champion? We don't get to ask those questions. So we're kind of left to like, oh, see what happened with this guy? Okay, he got in after this happened. He just beat 2 vets and he got in. Or this guy got in, he was 8-0 and 7 of those guys weren't all that good, right? He knocked them all out, he's in. We're not 1,000,000% sure of this, but my belief is that it's a little bit of both. So once you're 3-0, 4-0, it's time to get a couple names on your hit list. So you can get a couple people that are about to go into the show. They'll be ranked at the top of the country. Just look at Tapology's rankings, Fight Matrix's rankings, okay? Pick off a couple of those guys, or look at people that are just coming out. A lot of times these are the better bets. They have bigger names already, so there's a lot of value in beating them. A lot of people will hear about it. Usually the UFC will hear about this as well. And if you can take those guys out in exciting fashion, you're going to the show. Or more likely, you're going to the show, because we don't know. One thing we do know is how you win really matters. If you go and decision everybody, I know this has happened to one of my friends, Thiago Gonçalves. He had so many fights, like 14-1 or 14-0, something like that. All decisions, and it was really hard for him to get into the UFC. He didn't actually end up getting in. Eventually, he got into the Ultimate Fighter. Took him a long time, and then he didn't end up getting signed after the Ultimate Fighter. The UFC does not like decisionators. They want you to finish. And if you're a grappler, you better be savage, right? You better be able to do some high-flying, visually interesting type of grappling that leads to submission. If you take people down and hold them there and throw little hammer fists and hold them there, they're not gonna sign you. They don't care if you can beat everyone else. It doesn't matter. If the crowd doesn't want to watch you, they're not going to sign you, which is a little unfortunate. I would like to see a world where it doesn't matter how you win, just winning. Winning matters the most. And then, if it's exciting, bonus points. But it is what it is. So try to be exciting, especially in your pro career, especially once you get to that 5-0, 6-0, 7-0 type area. They're gonna start looking at you. Maybe they're looking at you for Contender Series. Maybe they're looking at you for the Ultimate Fighter. Maybe they're looking at you for short notice, because newsflash, that's how you're getting in. One statistic that a prominent manager recently told me was in the last 6 years, they have signed 2 people that didn't go through either Contenders or the Ultimate Fighter or got pulled in short notice. 2 people in 6 years of all the divisions, men and women, that actually got signed into the UFC to fight on a card right away and had a full notice, like a full camp's notice, like 8 weeks or 10 weeks or whatever that would be, which is crazy. So that's like a pipe dream. If you think you're gonna be that person, it's very unlikely. If you're looking to get into the UFC, you gotta make sure that you're ready, okay? Because it's Contenders, it's the Ultimate Fighter, right? You'll have some notice for those, but short notice is a great way to get in because you probably even get a better contract that way than you would coming out of one of the shows. Definitely better than the Ultimate Fighter contract. I was under one and it was much better. I got out of it as soon as possible. It was much better to get just an entry-level contract, which I believe when I was there, it was 10-10, 12-12, 14-14, and then 16-16. But that's changed now. I think 12-12 is the current minimum wage. Those of you that really know your UFC, correct me in the comments if I'm wrong on that. So if you want to get in, it's that way. If you're at that top level where you're really close and you hear that there's a show nearby, like there's a show in the next state or in your home state or in your home city, if there's fighters that are at your weight class that are fighting, be ready. Prep yourself for a fight like you're gonna fight. If you don't end up getting it, it's not a huge deal anyway because you put that work, you're gonna bank that work anyway, it's gonna be useful later. But if they do call you, right? If they do call you, you're set, you're in. And then you just gotta win and keep winning because if you lose, they will boot you. Now, another thing that is really important in order to get into the UFC is you need a manager. Now, unfortunately, you need a manager. I'm not the hugest fan of managers. I feel like the fighter does more than 80% of the work to get the fight. The amount of work that we've had to put in for years, decades, in order to get to this fight at the top of our career where we make the majority of our money is a lot of work. Managers, they get the fight signed and then they get 20%. You get 80, they get 20, that's crazy. But unfortunately, if you want to get your foot in the door, they're not calling you for a short notice fight to your cell phone. They're not gonna email you, they're not gonna DM you on Instagram. You need a manager that's gonna work for you, okay? And there's a bunch of managers out there. I'm not really involved in that part of it anymore. I've got a bunch of my guys do have managers. I'm not gonna shout out exactly who they are. There's some good ones, there's some bad ones. Maybe we'll do another video explaining that one day, but you try to stay out of the politics as much as I can. So that's pretty much it. You get a good gym, you get good at fighting, you start amateur, you get confidence, and then you test yourself, figure out the problems, solve the problems, go pro. Soon as you're pro, get the easiest fights you can, 3, 4-0, and then start chasing some names. Get a couple guys on your hit list that are about to get into the show, take them out. Get a couple guys that are just coming out of the show, older lions that are not that good and are coming out with large name value, take those guys out. Get a good manager. If you have a good manager, they're gonna be in Sean Shelby's ear, they're gonna be in Dana White's ear saying, oh, look at this guy, he's fighting tonight. They'll watch your fights, they'll see you. If they like you and you fit the mold for contenders, they're gonna bring you in. If you fit the mold for the Ultimate Fighter, they're gonna bring you in. And if you don't fit for that, but they really like you, they'll bring you in on a short notice fight. Now I said, if you wait to the end of the video, I'll give you guys a hack. And this is a crazy hack, okay? I'm not saying it's easy, but it's a huge hack and not enough people are doing this. Do what I'm doing right here. Build an online platform, preferably on YouTube. I'm not saying you can't do that on Instagram. I'm not saying you can't do it on TikTok, but YouTube is valued the highest. So build a following on YouTube from your journey. Film your stuff, make videos, make it personable, figure out some sort of strategy to launch it and blow yourself up and create attention. Get people to look at you. I'm not saying that you guys should go and try to be something that you're not in order to get attention. Not like that doesn't ever work. I mean, Chael Sonnen was a thing, but it's way better if you can do that in an authentic manner, right? So take yourself, take your emotions and your personality and just make it a little bigger. That's all any of us do. This is how I am. This is how I teach all the time. So I'm just really projecting and making myself a little bit bigger so that it grabs people's attention. Now, you can do that and you can show your whole life. People love to follow stories. Everyone wants a story. Why do you watch a fight? You're way more likely to care about that fight if there's some sort of story associated with it. A lot of fighters do this by, they talk shit about their opponent, and then their opponent talks back, and then they have a bit of a kerfuffle at the weigh-in, and now everybody's talking because they're beefing. That's an easy way to do it, but you can create drama, you can create attention with a bunch of different ways that are very creative as well, and that's up to you. Now, one fighter you can see that has done this fantastically is Jake Paul. I'm sure a lot of you people know who he is, and maybe you don't like him. Maybe you don't like how he fights. Maybe you don't like how he talks. But this dude turned himself from a regular YouTuber to one of the highest paid combat sports athletes in the entire world in a very short amount of time. Now imagine if you had incredible technique, if you were spending your time immersed in an MMA space from a good gym, learning from a good coach with a good team, and you're getting really good, and then at the same time, you're building this following, building this platform, taking people along on your journey, bringing the camera to the fights, bringing the camera in the back room, showing how you win, showing how you lose, showing everything, showing your struggles in the gym, showing your lifetime struggles. It's like a real live movie, right? It's what I always wished and prayed for when I was young, but the technology wasn't really there. Now the technology is here. You guys can do this from your phone. So all you need is a camera and your story and your personality. And if you can do that, people will see that, oh my God, this person has 700,000 subscribers on YouTube. If it's between you and Joe Blow nobody, he's a great fighter, but nobody is gonna have 15 of his family members watching the fight, and you're gonna have 700,000 people paying to watch that fight, either in person, on pay-per-view, whatever. It's obvious. What's a promoter gonna think? Which one would you rather pick if you were a promoter trying to sell fights, trying to sell seats, sell tickets, sell pay-per-views? Obviously take the guy with the massive following. Because of that, you'll actually get easier fights. A promoter will want to build you, so he's not gonna chuck you to Dagestan right away. He'll give you like Kron Gracie. Easy work, bro, easy work. He'll give you easy fights in order for you to look amazing. Because like we said before, most people don't know who's good and who's not. All we know is who knocks the person out and who doesn't, right? So to the layman, if you tell me that this dude is amazing and then I just see him knocking out other people, even if they're Kron Gracie, I'm gonna think the guy's good because I don't know if that other guy's good or not. So he's good. Everybody says he's good. He's got this massive following. Awesome. You'll get way easier fights. They'll pay you way more money. And you'll have the most important thing in this entire business, leverage. If you don't have leverage, you can't do anything. You are just cannon fodder. They chuck you to whoever they want. You fight against the hardest guys. You know what? Maybe leverage doesn't matter that much because you're locked into a long-term contract anyway. So even if you have leverage, if you want to say go and fight somebody else that's a big fight, they'll still tell you no. And if you have a problem with that, well then they'll just sit you on the bench. But you'll still get paid way more for any fight that you do take if you have leverage. It's gonna be a little better at the negotiating table if you have a name, if people give a shit if you're fighting. If they don't, if people aren't gonna turn up and sit down and watch you, you're not really worth anything to the company. If you can generate an organic audience, if you can do all their work of promoting for them by coming with the audience, like, yo, I got all these million people behind me, they're gonna get you in. They're gonna get you in fast, they're gonna get you easy fights, they're gonna pay you more money. So if you like the sounds of that, start a YouTube channel. Anyway, hope you guys liked the video. If you have any input, put that in the comments because sometimes you guys have some really good points and I learn a lot from it, all right? We don't really know the answers to this problem, but these are some of my ideas and things that are already working. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell. Ding!